Weatherboards Fibercement siding is manufactured by Certainteed, one of America's best-known suppliers of building materials. As we're sure you'll come to agree, Weatherboards is the best-performing fiber cement product on the market. The performance and long-term durability of Weatherboards fiber cement siding starts with proper installation. So that's why we're here, to offer our recommended step-by-step approach to the professional installation of Weatherboard siding. We're going to install Weatherboard siding on this demonstration house right here in the studio. Our topics are tools, safety, storage and handling, job preparation, sheathing, trim, cutting the siding, fasteners, nailing, and installing lap siding and weatherboard shapes. Then we'll install Weatherboard's vertical siding and soffit along with some popular soffit accessories. And finally, we'll cover caulking and paint. For quick reference, it's a good idea to carry a copy of the Weatherboards Contractor Handbook in your truck. You can get one from your distributor or from the Certainteed Sales Support Group. This document will also give you tool and fastener recommendations. We'll start with tools. Weatherboard siding will be installed with many of the same tools you'd use to install wood siding. We recommend using a circular saw with a diamond blade for crosscuts and rips. And for rip cuts, notches, and hard-to-reach places, we recommend using a mechanical shear or handsaw with a 4-inch blade. For radius cuts, use a jigsaw or standard hole saw. We recommend using pneumatic nailers for fastening efficiency. Safety on any siding job is critical. Weatherboard's fiber cement products should be cut in open, well-ventilated areas. Anyone cutting fiber cement siding, shapes, or trim should wear a dust mask and safety glasses. If it is ever necessary to cut fiber cement siding indoors or in a poorly ventilated area, you must use a NIOSH-approved ventilator equipped with a HEPA cartridge. Also, before you handle these fiber cement products, read the Material Safety Data Sheet, or MSDS, and the Technical Bulletin. Both are available at your Weatherboards distributor or from Certainteed's Fax on Demand service or the Certainteed website, www.certainteed.com. If you have the Weatherboards Contractor Handbook, you'll find a copy of each in there as well. And follow the rules of common sense and the safety provisions and directions provided with your power tools. To properly store weatherboard siding, keep it clean and protect it from direct exposure to the weather. The plastic bonnet that covers a unit is perfect for keeping the product dry. It's also imprinted with general installation reminders. The siding must be stored on a smooth, flat surface, not directly on the ground. If it becomes saturated with moisture for any reason, be sure it is dry before installing it. And always carry panels on edge rather than flat. Next is job preparation. If you'll be blind nailing the siding, the studs should be 16 inches on center. If face nailing, stud spacing can range from 16 to 24 inches. In high wind areas, blind nailing may be allowed on certain panel widths over studs that are 16 inches on center. Be sure to always consult local building code requirements to see if face nailing is required. Also consult Certainteed's NER and ICBO reports for the proper fasteners and application methods. These reports are available by fax on demand or on the web at Certainteed.com. Be sure the proper sheathing is applied. Whether you plan on hand nailing or using a pneumatic tool, the siding should be installed over plywood or OSB. Builder board and foam type sheathings are also acceptable. If you intend to install siding over foam sheathing, take extra care. Foam is flexible, so it may crush when nailed. If you will be applying fiber cement siding over foam, you must pre-drill the nail holes at the corners. If not, the corners may crack. Here's the next step in job preparation. Over the sheathing, apply non-vapor barrier wrap or house wrap. Conditions in warmer, more humid areas may vary, so check local building codes for specific requirements. When flashing around doors, windows, rake boards, chimneys, and service entrances, always use non-corrosive materials. Drip cap flashing above all openings will help achieve a watertight installation. Be sure the wrap extends below the framing onto the rim joist. And wrap joints should overlap and be taped before trim and siding are installed. Our next topic is trim. Trim pieces should be durable, water resistant, and weather resistant. High quality wood such as cedar, hardboard, vinyl trim, and composite products have all been used successfully with weatherboard siding. If you intend to paint the trim, test it for color compatibility with the siding before you install it. And carefully select trim materials for size to minimize joints, seams, and waste. We'll demonstrate 3 possibilities. We've pre-assembled this outside corner from 1x6 cedar. If you use a vinyl corner post, it should be back-caulked to prevent water from reaching any unfinished cut edges of the weatherboard siding. This is a composite outside corner, and we'll use it for our demonstration. Corner posts should be nailed 8 to 10 inches along each side. If 2 pieces are to be butted, apply caulk between them. Now let's take a few minutes to look at cutting and fasteners. Weatherboard's Fibercement siding can be cut several ways. Siding should be face down for all cuts and supported along its length and near the cut. For best results on cross cuts and rips, use a circular power saw with a diamond blade. You can cut 4 or 5 pieces at a time. The diamond blade should last through several residential installations. Carbide blades work well, but wear out quickly. You'll use 5 or more blades on an average house. When cutting the beaded profile, either cross-cut or at an angle, the cut should start against the bead, again face down. Right now, we're going to rip a 2-inch starter strip out of weatherboard siding for our demo project house. The mechanical shear works well for short cuts or irregular shapes. For radius cuts, use the shear or a 4-inch blade, and a standard hole saw will make penetrations for plumbing, wiring, or small vents. After making notched or narrow pieces, handle and install them carefully so they don't snap. Now we'll look at fasteners. Through this part, remember, we'll be fastening weatherboard siding to the studs, not to the sheathing. Nails must penetrate into the studs at least 1 1/4 inches. For a normal application through wood sheathing, use 6-penny smooth shank nails. If the wood sheathing is thicker than 1 inch, use 8-penny nails. Nails must be full round head and either double hot dipped galvanized or stainless steel. If you'll be using screws to fasten weatherboard siding, such as to metal studs, be sure that the screws are long enough that a minimum of 3 threads penetrate the studs. Some pneumatic pins have been approved for use in applying fiber cement to steel studs. Consult your pin manufacturers for details on approvals. Now, let's talk more about nailing. While we recommend a pneumatic nailer for speed, hand nailing weatherboards is fine. Weatherboard siding is harder than wood, so be sure nails are well set before driving them. And drive them straight in, not at an angle. When hand nailing in cooler weather, you may find it necessary to pre-drill the nail holes. Do not overdrive nails, because it reduces their holding power. The nail head must lay flat on the surface of the siding for maximum holding power. You'll find that installation is much faster with a pneumatic nailer, and the nailer will help ensure consistent nail penetration. Use a power nailer with a flush mount attachment so nails are driven to the proper depth. Again, do not overdrive nails, especially when working over foam type sheathing. Your tool's air pressure should be adjusted to field conditions. Now, at our demo house, the corner trim has been installed and we're ready to install the siding. Find the lowest point of the sheathing and partially drive a nail at one corner an inch above the low point. Attach a chalk line and go to the next corner. Snap a level line. Repeat until there is a level line all around the house. Next, we'll nail up the 2-inch starter strip we cut earlier. The starter strip should be fiber cement, pressure-treated wood, or other suitable material, at least 1.5 inches wide and at least 1/4 inch to 5/16 of an inch thick. The starter strip will give the first course of siding the proper angle and serve as a guide. Position the starter strip so that the first course will be 6 inches above the finished grade and a minimum of 1 inch above any surface where water may collect. The studio demonstration shows less than 6 inches, but for a real installation, 6 inches is an absolute must. The first course of siding should cover the starter strip by at least 1/8 of an inch. Put the first panel in place and nail it from the center out, or from end to end. Be sure the first panel is level. The nailing location is 3/4 of an inch down from the top edge of the siding panel. At the butt edge, nails must be at least 3/8 of an inch from the edge. All butt joints must be supported by framing or a metal off-stud joiner. The next course of siding and subsequent courses must overlap the prior courses by 1 1/4 inches. For face nailing, drive nails 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom edge of the overlapping panel. The nail should penetrate both panels and the stud. As you proceed up the wall, be sure the framing and sheathing are straight and true. If necessary, shim the siding as needed to prevent a wavy installation. When installing weatherboards pre-finished or Fibertech sealed siding panels, joints should be in moderate contact. No caulk is required if the edges are sealed or painted. Unprimed weatherboards panels should be spaced 1/8 of an inch at butt joints and caulk the gap. Caulk must also be applied if you've cut the siding and have an exposed edge. Where panels are in contact with corners and other trim, such as around doors and windows, leave a gap of 1/8 inch to allow for expansion and caulk those gaps. The same basic installation techniques are used to install weatherboards shapes. It's important to be certain that all butt joints are supported by studs or other framing underneath. The first course of perfection shingles installs just like lap siding over a starter strip and no closer than 6 inches to the finished grade and at least 1 inch above where any water may collect. Snap the chalk line 1 inch above the low point on the wall. Nail the siding at all studs. Leave a small gap where siding meets trim for caulking. Shim the wall as needed to prevent an uneven installation. To assure that you get a random pattern on the wall, perfection shingles should be installed with every other course upside down. Install the first course as described above. When you install the second course, turn the panels upside down and nail them. Overlap the siding 1 1/4 inches. On the third course, apply the panels in the same direction as the first course. Nailing is like lap siding, 3/4 of an inch from the top edge for blind nailing and 3/4 of an inch from both top and bottom edges for face nailing. At joints, nail 3/8 of an inch from the ends of the panels. The random square, straight, and staggered edge panels are cut in 3 different pieces. Each piece is identified by a number of V notches cut into the top corners of the panel. Panels must be installed by matching the corresponding V grooves. For example, 1 to 1, 2 to 2, and 3 to 3. See the instruction sheet supplied with the weatherboard shapes, or look in the Weatherboards Contractor Handbook for more details. The level chalk line for all the following shapes panels must be 8 inches above the lowest point of the siding application. If the first course of shapes is to be applied over an existing course of Fibercement siding, do not install a starter strip. But for any of the random square or full cut round or octagon panels, it will be necessary to install a course of 7.5 inch lap siding as a starter. This will provide a backing behind the open keyways on any of the full cut panels. Panels with open keyways are all nailed to the studs 1 inch above the top of the keyways. Full cut octagons and rounds have 8 6-inch wide tabs per panel. Installed properly, every other course will have vertical seams that align with studs spaced either 16 or 24 inches on center. The vertical edges of the intermediate courses will not align with studs. Therefore, these panels must be installed over a solid substrate, such as plywood or OSB. And for the best appearance, install full cut octagon and round panels with a minimum exposure of 6 inches. Begin with a level chalk line 8 inches above the lowest point of the siding application. If there's no siding under the first course, First install a 7.5-inch starter strip. The first course starts at the left side of the wall. Trim the panel so its right edge hits a stud. Install the panel 1/8 of an inch away from the corner trim. Nail the panel above every other keyway. Do not nail between keyways. Work left to right and leave another 1/8 of an inch gap at the right side trim. For the second course, find the first full untrimmed panel of the first course. Measure 21 inches to the right from the left edge and mark it. The first panel of the second course will line up on this mark. Install the second course 7 inches above the first course. The vertical joints of the second course will not line up on studs, so nail them to the substrate, again above every other keyway. Continue in a like manner up the wall, being sure the keyways line up with the centers of the tabs. When a doorway or window breaks a course, continue the application as if the opening were not there to prevent complications above the opening. To center weatherboards rounds in a gable, find the middle of the gable by dropping a plumb line from the peak. Mark the middle. Install a starter strip in the gable and lay a short piece of siding on the starter strip. Hold a piece of lap siding against the trim at the gable slope. Run a pencil along the edge, marking the slope angle to the original piece of siding. Use it as the rake template for cutting the other panels to fit. Locate the first course so either a keyway or the shingle face or tab is centered in the middle of the gable. Place nails above the top of every other keyway. Do not nail between keyways. Finish to left and right, leaving 1/8 inch between the sides of the panels and trim. Use the rake template to trim the starting panel for the second course. Install remaining courses according to directions for installing rounds, and face nail the final piece in the peak. The Weatherboards lap siding caulking policy also applies with weatherboard shapes. If they're pre-finished or sealed with Fibercement, joints should be in moderate contact and caulking is not required. Where weatherboard shapes are installed near corners or other trim, gapping and caulking are required, even if pre-finished or Fibercement sealed. Now we'll see the differences involved in installing weatherboards vertical panels. Vertical panels will not be overlapped, so they'll all be face nailed. These can be installed on properly prepared walls with a maximum 24-inch on-center stud spacing. However, it's always a good idea to check local building codes for requirements. Start 6 inches above grade and 1 inch above water collecting surfaces. Never use a starter strip when installing vertical siding. Leave a gap between siding and trim. All joints must be supported by studs or other framing members. If the panels are pre-finished or Fibercement sealed, vertical joints should be in moderate contact and need not be caulked. All horizontal joints, however, should be gapped 1/8 of an inch and will need to be caulked to prevent moisture from infiltrating behind the siding. Space nails at 6 inches on center at the edges and 12 inches on center at intermediate framing members. Do not nail any closer than 2 inches from the corners in either direction. If a corner begins to break, pre-drill the nail holes. If you plan on stacking vertical panels up a wall, there are specific flashing, gapping, and caulking diagrams in the contractor handbook. Weatherboards Fibercement siding can be installed on non-vertical walls and mansard roofs in 2 conditions. The walls must be at least 60 degrees measured from the plane of the ground, and the slope on the non-vertical walls is no longer than 50 feet. When you install Fibercement siding on structures with eaves, begin the top of the non-vertical wall under the eave. On structures without eaves, install flashing so that water does not run down behind the siding. Weatherboard soffit should be installed to 2x4 framing members spaced at a maximum of 24 inches on center, with the long dimension perpendicular to the framing. Nail every 6 inches, no closer than 3/8 of an inch from the edges and 2 inches from the corners. All edges should be lightly butted, fastened at ends, and supported by framing. There are 2 special applications we want to cover very briefly. One is installing Weatherboards Fibercement siding to metal studs. Minimum stud specifications must be met, and screw descriptions are in the handbook. The siding must be attached at each metal stud, and as we said earlier, screws must penetrate at least 3 screw threads into the framing. Installing weatherboards over masonry is also described. To a concrete block or poured concrete wall, you must fur out the wall with 2x2 furring strips on 16-inch centers. Or metal hat channels can be used in place of wood strips and siding screwed on. In either case, house wrap must be installed between the siding and the furring or channels. Let's caulk those areas that need it. Use a brush to remove any dust in those gaps and at trim edges. Carefully caulk wherever weatherboard siding meets trim vertically, at corners, and around windows and doors. When the siding is not pre-finished or primed, butt joints must be gapped and caulked. Use a high-quality exterior-grade 100% acrylic caulk or sealant that meets ASTM standard C920. Be sure the caulk or sealant is color-matched or can be painted and is compatible with both weatherboard siding and the materials chosen for trim. Check the gloss and texture of the caulk to assure that it's compatible with the paint. Now, the subject is painting. We certainly hope you chose siding from the Weatherboards pre-finish program. If so, you probably have a minimum of touching up to do and the job's complete. If the siding has been sealed with Certainteed's exclusive FiberTech sealing system, you have up to 2 years before a finish coat is required. Please check the warranty. If it's not sealed with FiberTech, it must be primed before it's painted. Unprimed weatherboards must be primed and painted within 180 days of installation. Clean all the siding and trim thoroughly before applying a finish coat. FiberTech sealed or primed weatherboards must be painted with a high-quality 100% acrylic latex paint. A recommended list of top coats is available from the Certainteed Fax on Demand service or at Certainteed's website www.certainteed.com. In any case, oil-based paints must not be applied to Weatherboards Fibercement siding. Weatherboards Fibercement siding. It's a great siding with great advantages over wood and hardboard siding. If you have additional questions or comments, please call the sales support group. If you have technical questions, call customer service. Goodbye for now, and thanks for watching.